in the camera this time, Thor. What a good boy. What a good boy. Guys, we're joined by Thor. All right, guys, welcome back to episode 8 of the StrongAF Club podcast. As always, I'm your co-host, Nate Craig, joined by...
Asim
And guys, today, we're putting on our Mythbusters hats, and we're going to talk about some gym myths and see whether they're true or not. Let us begin. So, the first myth, Asim, is deadlifting bad for your back?
No. I think the way people deadlift is what's bad for their back, but inherently deadlifts aren't bad for your back because that would be saying any kind of loaded hinge is bad, so you shouldn't pick up a heavy couch. If you think about it, anytime you bend over and pick up any load off the ground by bending at the waist and standing back up, it's a form of deadlift. So I think it's less about the lift itself and more about the mechanic that people don't understand.
Yeah.
If you think about it, there's really only two ways the human body can bend over. You move your shoulders first or you move your hips first. Most people go forward, so they move their shoulders first, and that's when the back gets loaded. So I think sitting back is going to be your best bet. Number one reason I see people getting injured, though, is because people pull the weight instead of pushing the weight.
Yes.
And I think that's because historically most programs would put deadlifts on a pulling day because they categorize it as a pull. But I think when you start thinking about it as a pull, you try to pull it with your upper body rather than press it with your legs.
And that's when you see people with the super arched back and like, my lower back.
Exactly. So I think people not pressing with their legs, people not bracing properly, and then just not having good starting mechanics or finishing mechanics is going to be a reason why. But yeah, deadlifts are not bad for you. It's the way people deadlift that's bad for them.
Gotcha. Myth number 1, busted. Number 2, can you spot reduce fat?
I think we did cover this in the past, but in short, no, you can't. You can only lose body fat around your body at an even rate. However, certain parts of your body will show and reveal itself faster than others, and that's all based on how you store body fat, which is heavily genetic. I mean, it's pretty much only genetic. So as you lose weight and you get leaner over time, certain parts of your body will show and get leaner faster. For example, some people have leaner arms but hold it around their midsection, especially around the belly button. Others keep it around the backside, and they can have abs, but they got still a little bit on their side.
Yeah.
So everyone is going to be different. So you can't spot reduce, but you can only get leaner, and that's pretty much what you should be focusing on. And over time, your musculature or your leanness, and for most people, they care about their abs. Your abs will reveal itself. The analogy would be like you're laying in a hotel bed with the 3 sheets, the inner, the comforter, and that top sheet on top. As you get leaner and reduce body fat, you're peeling layers off that blanket, revealing more and more of your form. Now, which part of your form shows more is heavily dependent on your genetics.
So you're telling me if I got those substitute teacher hips or something, I can't just be doing a bunch of Russian twists?
Yeah.
It all loses evenly throughout your body.
Exactly. Yeah, you're not going to crunch your way into abs. You gotta do that with diet.
Interesting. Myth number 2 busted. And actually, that one I did not know. Does muscle turn into fat if you just stop working out?
No, just like metal doesn't turn into wood, muscle doesn't turn into fat, and fat doesn't turn into muscle. Ooh. You can't convert one mass to another in this situation. And yeah, if you stop lifting, you're not gonna lose your muscle and then turn into fat. You'll just lose your muscle, and more of your fat will be revealed. So your percentage of body fat to lean mass will be higher.
And it makes you look like...
It makes you look softer for sure. But I think a lot of times when people stop lifting, they think they lost a lot of muscle, or they start dieting, they think they lost a lot of muscle. It's actually, just as it's really hard to put on muscle, like extraordinarily hard, it's fairly hard to lose it that quickly. Because what you lose first is the water and glycogen that you had in there. Essentially, you had a pump perpetuating because you were training over and over and over again, and then you took a time away from training, and now you don't have that pump. You're going to feel flatter, and that flat feeling is what's going to cause most people with their dysmorphia to feel like they lost muscle. But you're not losing muscle that quickly, just like you're not gaining muscle that quickly.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm going to kind of piggyback off that. When does that muscle atrophy kind of set in? Or is it kind of person dependent and where your fitness level was at before?
Yeah, I think where your fitness level is at, genetics, hormones, all those play a factor. But I think the biggest one, in my non-scientific opinion, would be, what does your lifestyle look like? If you stopped lifting, but you spend all day like doing physical activity.
You're like a stonemason or
yeah,
something.
like stonemason, you're throwing hay bales, or you're a grappler, versus someone who sits at a computer all day or like teleworks from home and kind of just binge watches Netflix. I think the rate of deconditioning is going to be pretty skewed. And there's a lot of variety in there. I think it's more about what you do in your day. Is there any resistance on that muscle to cause any level of maintenance? If so, you're going to maintain your muscle a little bit longer, which is why you'll see people like who are into bodybuilding and then get into grappling or jiu-jitsu and get obsessed with it, quit lifting, and then maintain not the entirety of their muscle mass or the entirety of their physique, but they keep within striking distance of what they had because you traded barbells for humans on what you're trying to move around. So you traded one resistance for another. Just because you stop lifting doesn't mean you stop lifting. You're still moving another weighted object. It just doesn't look like your traditional barbell. So in your mind, you think you stopped lifting, but you're still moving another human.
Gotcha. So it really just depends on the person. There is no set time like, oh, you haven't been lifting for 2 weeks? Yeah, it's going to kick in starting now.
I'm sure there's science out there that can give you like a timeline of like 2-3 weeks. You start deconditioning at this rate, but I haven't seen it. That doesn't mean it's not out there. But what I can say is the more active you are outside of the weight room, when you stop lifting, the more you're likely to retain it. Especially if your diet if you're maintaining your diet, like your protein intake's pretty high. But if you like go on like you do one of like those shows like Alone where you stop lifting and you stop eating and then you're just burning a bunch of calories because you're just walking around. Yeah, your body's gonna eat away at itself.
Like
pretty
me
fast.
getting afraid.
Yes, exactly.
Just getting bit up by bugs. Okay, so on the topic of diet, can you out-train a bad diet?
Oh, hell no.
Even if I'm going to the gym for 3 hours a day and busting my butt, I can't go to...
Yeah, I mean, it's simple math at the end of the day, because if you train all day long and then you eat like an asshole, like it's not going to be... You're not going to be able to outwork that, because I think people overestimate how many calories they eat and underestimate... Actually, it's the other way around. They overestimate how many calories they burn in training and underestimate how many calories they actually are in a deficit. So a lot of people think they're in more of a deficit than they really are, and they think they burn more than they really do. I think that is that is one of the issues with like the tech watches and things like that, because they'll tell you, oh, you burned X amount of calories. How can it truly know? If you look at it, an average person burns like 2,800 to 3,500 calories, something like that, per like just under a marathon ran or like jogged. So unless you're doing like a marathon's worth of activity a week, you're not burning enough to lose a pound.
That and on that point, it was depressing, because even using the watch, sponsor us, Garmin, I went on a quick run and stuff, but I kind of busted my butt, and I was like, man, I bet I burned like 500 to 1,000 calories after that. Nah, it was like 200. Exactly,
and like even you put someone on the assault bike and you tell them, hey, burn 100 calories. It's gonna take a long time to get to that 100 calories.
I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Exactly. So what's easier, sitting on the bike for 12 minutes to burn 100 calories? Or not eating the Chick-fil-A sauce with your Chick-fil-A sandwich that gives you an additional 145 calories.
Okay.
So I think it is hard to out-train a bad diet. I mean, it's hard to outwork a bad diet, because the amount of workload you would have to maintain week after week after week is going to be extremely hard to recover from. It's just way easier to do it through food.
Gotcha. Makes sense. All right, next one. Ooh, this is a good one. So protein synthesis, how many grams of protein can you eat per meal? A lot of people will say, you have to eat your protein 30 minutes after working out or something like that in order for it to kick in. And also, your body can only metabolize X number of grams per hour, whatever. We've all heard this.
Yeah, I love this one. So there's kind of two questions in there. The first one is there a post-workout anabolic window? And then the other side of it is, how much protein can you consume in a sitting? So on the front side of that, there is an anabolic window, but I don't want to say anabolic window, because I feel like that's misleading. There is a window where your body will utilize the protein that you consume and the food you consume to repair the tissue that was just broken down. However, it's not a 30-minute window where the door is sliding like Ninja Warrior. You got to slide your way through, and if you miss the ship,
it just does nothing.
It does nothing, and everything you consume after that goes nowhere.
True.
Because that would, biologically, I think that would just make, evolutionary, if you believe in that, it doesn't make sense. Like, how could we have survived this long? So the reality is, protein synthesis, which is body breaking down the protein and utilizing it, is about I'm going to say like 48 to 72 hour window. So everything you eat for the next 2 to 3 days, depending on the muscle mass, based on the muscle itself, will dictate how long it'll take. So I think like biceps recover faster. So that window is like 24 to 48 hours, something like that. Quads and hamstrings are like 48 to 72 hours, if I remember correctly. So the window for consumption to influence recovery is way longer. So it's everything you eat in the next 2 days for that recovery to happen, which is why people should train more frequently. Because as soon as your protein synthesis is done and your body has utilized all the nutrients to repair that muscle,
it's ready to go.
You should stimulate it again. So if you only train that muscle group once a week, then you're missing out an entire window where you could be spiking another response. Now to the other question, which is, how much protein can you consume in a sitting?
Yeah, because and on that note, like I think I was talking to my brother or something. He's like, dude, your dinner is like 100 grams of protein. You realize you're just gonna crap out half of that, right? And your body's not actually gonna use it. I was like,
no. I mean, about that. I remember when I was much younger, I was like 18, 19 years old. I heard that for the first time, and I thought to myself, that just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I was thinking, well, if I consume 80 grams of protein in a sitting, and my body will only use 30 to 40, and the rest of it just goes into the ether. How did we survive as a species, as a hunter-gatherer species, where we didn't know when our next meal was going to be? Did we like cut out a piece of deer and say, well, this is 30 grams, I'm going to not eat the rest of it because I know when the next meal's coming? No, you don't know when the next meal's coming. So that was the thought process I had.
Okay.
That's the thought process I had when I was a kid. And then as research started coming out, I think where people mess up when they look at the research is they look at the part where it says 30 to 40 grams, because that part is relatively true. There is a amount you can digest per hour. Keyword, per hour. So if you eat 80 grams of protein, you're not going to digest it in an hour. It's going to take hours, but you will still digest it. So the bigger the meal, the bigger the fastest state afterwards has to be, or the longer you have to wait before you can eat again, or should eat again. So that way you can actually properly digest that previous meal. So if you're going to eat your 100 grams, it's going to be a while before you can eat again or should eat again, which is not a bad thing. You just have to understand that all this food you're eating isn't going to go into waste. It's just going to need to be spaced out further. Like for me and a couple of our clients, we like bigger meals, but less frequently. Just the nature of our job and how our days are set up. Snacking and eating frequent meals throughout the day just not going to be a thing.
Yeah, I have a huge dinner myself.
Yep.
Usually, that's where I get the
Absolutely.
majority
I mean,
of my protein.
we're both super busy during the day, so if it was one of those things where you could only absorb X amount, then how does anyone get to their goals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. You know what, guys? We're keeping these episodes pretty quick for you. So that's all we got for you today. Again, thank you for tuning in to episode 8 of the StrongAF Club podcast. Please like and comment down below. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear your questions. Keep them coming, guys.
Yes, please. Thank you.
See you on the next one.